they were more integrity, like there was more integrity
Yeah,
in it.
yeah, yeah.
But like as an employee in the dealership, it was very interesting.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
But it was a good time though. Like honestly, I can honestly say it is a good time working. It was a good time working there.
Well, of course, the dealership presents itself as the standard, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And it is their duty to train their employees at a particular level to get their competency up because they
yeah,
want everything to be above board at all times, right?
yeah.
So the image is there and they have to try to maintain that image. But at the same time, no, what was your perception
So
after going through all that?
so now here's the thing: is that yes, they advertise the professionalism, the top notch technicians, things like that. But it's like
Mhm.
after you work in the dealership, you kind of realize that a lot of that's just kind of not to say it's not true,
Yeah.
but it's a bit of an extension of the truth. Like to be honest, it's all the same type of people working everywhere. Like,
Hmm,
what's the
hmm.
difference between a tech that's been at 30 years at, like, let's say a Canadian Tire or a smaller shop versus somebody at a dealer? Yeah, their knowledge might be a bit different, but the integrity is kind of the same, right?
Yes, yes,
Like, if
yes.
somebody's been in the industry for so long, their integrity is gonna be just as well as somebody else at the dealership. But
Yeah.
I feel at the dealership they tried to really kind of push that, like, yeah, we're here for the customers first type of thing.
Hmm.
But I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's always a business, right?
Well, of course. And they
Like,
have to be above board at all times, depending on
yeah,
who is in charge, of course, because
yeah,
as you know, brands
exactly.
differ and
Mhm.
dealership operations differ depending on the model that you're actually selling
Yeah,
and servicing and recommending to your friends and family. But since you've been in it and you've seen the changes, you've experienced the changes, what would be some of your recommendations to dealerships?
training, a big thing would be training, and
Yeah.
not training as in you got to sit on a computer and go through all your courses and just click through everything.
Hmm.
Like actual proper training. Like I always find it, you know, so surprising when I call a dealership and I ask them like, questions about any of the services, and whoever picks up the phone, like, if you're picking up the phone in the dealership, you should at least have some kind of knowledge about something,
Yeah.
about at least some kind of knowledge about the department, or at least like if I call a dealership and I ask somebody for an oil change price or like prices on like services,
Hmm.
anybody there should be able to give me that.
Well, yeah, that is true.
You
But
know what I mean? Or
currently, a lot of dealers are suffering from
it's
the shortage of knowledgeable people working in the
yeah,
dealership because
yeah,
the turnover is very high.
yeah, it is.
So
And like like where I was, like I was one of the last advisors there for a good portion,
Mhm.
for a good length of time.
Yeah,
Like while I was there, I seen so many people come in and out through the
yeah,
door.
yeah,
And that was
yeah,
just in a short amount of time.
yeah,
Like,
and
so
that
I can
that
only imagine in a longer period, like how many people.
yeah, and that's a reflection of the dealer, the leadership. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, that is a
Mhm.
reflection of the leadership. If there's no standard operating procedures there, and
Yeah.
then there's no policy and guideline for everyone that it goes right across the board, then
Yeah.
it's gonna be lost because the leadership has to set the tone, right? The
Yeah.
mission, the vision, the values from which the company itself strive on. But if they keep moving the goalposts and changing the rules of the game, people are just going to get frustrated and just keep on leaving. And
Yeah. And
that's commonplace in a lot of
yes,
dealerships.
exactly. It's like,
Based on my personal experience, but
yeah.
seems that you have experienced the same thing as well.
Yeah. It's like soon as you get used to something, something changes.
Something changes, yeah.
And you have to readapt to it. But it's like I get the forever changing thing. It's good for that, to always evolve. But sometimes it's like you have to at least, start. You have to at least master what you were doing first before you try to move on to
Move
something
on to
else.
something else. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is so true. That is
you
so
know.
true. But in terms of the market as it is right now, because you've seen so many models of different cars servicing the different features going through the garages and thing, how should we prepare for a market that is constantly changing?
You know what? I think I think as an employee, if you're in the industry, like you should have enough passion to want to keep up to date with a lot of the new technology.
Hmm.
Like like to be honest, I don't think it's an industry for somebody to go in just as like, oh, I'm just looking for a job,
Right.
because it does require, like, you know, for a dealership to run really well, it does require more employees that are they're willing to make this their career, right?
Hmm.
Versus
Hmm.
somebody that's just they're working 9 to 5, you know, I'm just here to clock in, clock out. Like somebody like that, you know, they're not gonna go over their, you know, over and above to arm yourself with knowledge, right?
Hmm.
To
Hmm.
help themselves in the dealership, unless the dealership is making them do that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, yeah, you can make your employees do it too, but at the same time, it is on people as well too to kind of arm themselves with knowledge.
Yeah, but there has to be some incentive
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
yeah for the employee to be doing that, so going above and
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah. And that's
what
what I was gonna say as well too, is that if I'm doing that, like it has to be worth it for me.
right.
Like if I'm as an advisor, if I know, if I've been there for, you know, 3 4 years and I know everything in and out about the cars, and I can diagnose things in the drive through and things like that before it even gets into the shop. If I'm able to do things like that,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, you should incentivize
Right.
for that, you know.
Right. But
And I think, yeah, that's one thing too. It's like, again, they're always looking for somebody to do something cheaper,
mhm.
and that works with employees too.
Yeah. But on the notion of incentives, yeah, it has
Yeah,
to be incentivized for the employee to put out the extra effort. But at the same
exactly.
time, no, they have to, the leadership of the company, the dealership, no, they have to do what they call it, no, they have to keep the employees engaged at all
Yes, yeah.
times, the buy-in principle. But
Mhm.
Ryan, as you and I know, the auto industry sometimes it's a very unforgiving industry.
Yeah.
You can put out a lot, and then by the by the snapping of the finger, right, something happens, whether by economic turmoil or natural disaster or the current situation. No, COVID is upon us. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
yeah,
yeah,
where it's we're the first to go, right?
yeah,
And it's
exactly.
always one of the very first industry to be affected.
Yeah. And like again, like with this whole COVID thing, it kind of really showed you it showed you what you're worth for the employees, for the company side, you know?
Right.
Like, you know, me personally, I felt like I gave a lot to the dealership when I was there. And I felt like I was just kind of, okay, thanks for your time,
Thanks
but
for
we
your
need to make
service.
some
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or if you're there and then it's
yeah.
by the stroke of a button, someone just gets up and says, we're moving in a different direction.
Yeah, and that's yeah, exactly. That's yes, yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah, I've heard it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
I've
yes,
heard it so
exactly.
often.
Yeah, 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 yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the number. That's the line.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard it very often, very, very often, Ryan. But what are you thinking about? Are you planning on going back into the dealership?
Um, to be honest, man, like I have my own business now, so I don't really plan on going back in the automotive
Okay,
industry.
okay,
Like
great.
I liked it and I loved it for what it was, and it taught me a lot. And it taught me actually more about people than
Mhm.
about cars.
Okay,
Like, which is
okay.
the funny, yeah, which is the thing. Like, I learned more about people working in that industry. But yeah, it was something good, but I wouldn't be able to go back to it.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
yeah, it's just I was just it was nice, and I love cars, and I love like I like cars. I was always love cars, but like working in that industry, it's not something for me anymore.